Previews of coming attractions are designed to whet our appetites for the coming pictures. Clips of a variety of movies are shown with the idea of getting our attention in hopes that we will return to the theater to see that movie when it comes to town. Now, every now and then, a preview actually does capture our attention, and we're determined to go to the theater to see it when it comes to the city. But there are experienced moviegoers who recognize that often the best parts of the movie were shown during the preview. So there's really no need to pay much attention to it or to pay to see it. And then there are those previews that are so awful. We know we don't want to see the whole movie. The previews were bad enough. Well, in the chapter just before the one we just heard, Jesus gave his followers a preview of coming attractions. Jesus asked his followers who they thought he was, and Peter immediately responded with, "You're the Christ, you're the Son of the living God." Now, Peter and the other first followers knew exactly what they meant when they said Jesus was the Messiah. They believed that Jesus would enter Jerusalem, throw Rome out of Israel, and then sit on the throne of David in Jerusalem as the new King David. And as Jesus' closest followers, they were pretty excited about that because they were sure that they would be the ones to serve as Jesus' people when he ruled over this new kingdom of God. Now, his followers thought they knew exactly what a Messiah would be like until Jesus showed them the preview. Jesus told his followers that when they got to Jerusalem, he would be arrested, put on trial, tortured, and killed on a cross. Okay, that got his followers' attention. They were horrified. It was not a movie they wanted to see. Their Messiah was not supposed to die on a cross. Their friend, the one they loved, the one for whom they had abandoned their lives to follow, he wasn't supposed to suffer a tragic end. And while they were thinking about this, another frightening thought occurred to them. If Jesus was arrested, tortured, and killed on a cross, it was highly likely his closest followers would face the same fate. And as the supporting actors of Jesus in this film, they didn't want to be part of it. Well, by this time, you can imagine the blood was rushing through their brains so quickly that none of the first followers heard the next preview. You know, when we go to the dentist or the doctor and we hear bad news, you need a root canal. You have a disease for which, well, you'll need surgery and it might not work. You know how the blood rushes through our heads and we don't hear the next part? I think that's what happened to the first followers. Because I don't think they were able to hear and absorb when Jesus said after 3 days he would be raised from death. I suspect no one took that good news in because they were simply too shaken by the part about being arrested, tortured, and killed. Now, Jesus' followers in Matthew knew that Jesus was an apocalyptic Jew. That means he believed that the kingdom of God would come on earth when the Messiah was killed and returned to life. And Jesus' followers, well, they just kind of forgot about that part of the beliefs when they saw the previews they didn't like. They wanted the happy ending of the resurrection without the struggle of the first part of the show. They didn't want to deal with the cross. They didn't want to deal with pain. They didn't want to deal with sacrifice. They just wanted the happy ending. Well, I suspect Jesus left his followers with that particular preview for 6 days. And if those first followers were anything like us, they had a few things to say about it. They had a few things to talk over. I think they would ask questions like this. Did Jesus really say he was going to die on a cross? And does he really expect us to die alongside him? Or is that simply another story he's going to explain to us later? Would we stay with Jesus or would we run away if anything even close to this actually happened? And was Jesus serious about any of this? Jesus let them struggle for 6 days, and then finally on the 6th day, he took his inner circle, Peter, James, and John, up Mount Tabor with him. And there they received a preview of the happy ending. Jesus was shown with the inner light of God shining through him. He was joined by Moses and Elijah, and God's voice spoke once again, proclaiming that Jesus was indeed God's Son, that they should listen to him. Now, Peter, James, and John witnessed all of this, but they didn't get that the transfiguration was a preview of the risen Christ. They didn't understand that the light of God shining through Jesus was an idea of what the risen Christ might actually look like. They didn't understand that God was offering them an affirmation, that they should listen to what Jesus said, that he would suffer and die, but 3 days later, God would return him to life. What we do know is that the preview of Jesus' suffering and death clearly had shaken their faith. They couldn't see beyond that to the happy ending. All they could see was the sacrifice and pain before the happy ending came. In fact, on the way down the mountain, Peter questioned Jesus as to whether he was really the Messiah or not. And he did it not by outright asking, but rather by asking Jesus if Elijah had come back to earth yet to prepare them for the Messiah. Because it was believed that Elijah, before the Messiah came, Elijah would come and prepare the way. And Peter was pretty sure he hadn't seen Elijah around very much. So Jesus said, look, Elijah has come back, but no one recognized him. John the Baptist was Elijah returned to earth, and once again the first followers were confused and filled with even more doubts. 2,000 years later, I wonder how many of us realize that following Jesus is a commitment based on sacrifice. Like the first followers, I suspect we all really like the happy ending. In fact, we really are looking forward to that resurrection part of our faith. But a lot of us don't want anything to do with the pain and sacrifice that comes with following Jesus. A lot of us just don't want to deal with the work of kingdom building that comes with following Jesus. We want the happy ending without having to see the rest of the movie. As it turns out, the first followers did not follow Jesus to the cross. In fact, they ran away as soon as Jesus was arrested. They ran away when Jesus was in pain, and they ran away rather than watch Jesus struggle on the cross. It was only after they had seen and heard the risen Christ that they fully gave themselves to teaching, preaching, healing, baptizing, and building the kingdom of God on earth. It was only when they saw the happy ending that they were willing to take on the sacrifices that go along with building the kingdom of God right here and right now. 2,000 years later, we know Jesus did suffer and die on a cross on that day we now call Good Friday. We know that Jesus returned to life that following Sunday. We know he spent time teaching his followers and then returned home to God. We have proof of the resurrection, and most of us know and accept and believe that someday we will join Jesus in the next life. And that's the part of the movie we love. The rest of it is a horror story of which we want no part. I strongly suspect most of us don't like the preview that shows Jesus' followers suffering and sacrificing. But yet sharing our faith and building the kingdom of God on earth is a task that calls us to sacrifice our time, our abilities, and our resources. Following Jesus means risking to run counter to the values of our culture. Following Jesus means being willing to literally pick up our cross and follow Jesus wherever he goes. Excuse me. Following Jesus means making his work a priority for us. We've seen and we've heard the movie. And just like the first followers, a lot of us just want to skip the sacrifice part and go right to the happy ending. We don't like any of the previews that involve sacrifice and pain. Well, this Wednesday, March 1st, we begin the season of Lent. And the season of Lent is the part of the movie that comes before the happy ending. Lent is the season that invites us to think again about the sacrifice Jesus asks us to make when we agree to follow him. Because make no mistake, following Jesus does involve sacrifice. It does involve giving not just generously, but sacrificially of our time, our abilities, and our resources. Transfiguration is a preview of the happy ending, but when we follow Jesus, We have to go through the part of the movie that involves sacrifice. And yes, sometimes that sacrifice will be painful. The good news is, if we're willing to walk through the time of sacrifice, we'll get to the happy ending. Yes, following Jesus means sacrifice, but the story of the Transfiguration guarantees we will all get to the happy ending one day. That is our hope. That is our faith. That is our commitment. Amen.